अमेरिकन प्रेसिडेंट डोनाल्ड ट्रंप ने अपनी एम्बेसी जो है वो यरूशलेम को शिफ्ट कर दिया है। आप नहीं समझते कि इससे पूरी दुनिया में एक्सट्रीमिज्म फैलेगा?
ये बहुत ख़तरनाक स्पीच जो प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने की थी। आई एम वेरी कंसर्न्ड। Jerusalem has to be part of the negotiated peace settlement. आपको मालूम है वॉर से पहले ईस्ट जेरूसलम was part of Palestine, और यूएन और पूरी दुनिया को समझती है कि जेरूसलम is part of a peaceful solution. अगर अमेरिकन ये कह रहे हैं कि the embassy will be in Jerusalem, इसकी मतलब ये है कि वो ये कह रहे हैं कि Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, और इसलिए बहुत ख़तरनाक है। और मुझे the president of France, the prime minister of UK, other world leaders ने condemn की है, और ये एक और मसला है where President Trump doesn't understand world politics, or doesn't understand the offence he's causing, and बहुत अफसोस की बात है। But as a world, we've got to unite and explain to President Trump why he's wrong. What we shouldn't do is, get involved in violence, get involved in people losing their lives. We've got to make sure we lobby the US government to change their stance.
प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप 2018 में लंदन भी आ रहे हैं, तो आप जब वो लंदन में आएंगे तो
खबरों में
अगर वो आए लंदन में तो आप उनको वेलकम करेंगे?
I've been quite clear. ये जो प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप के व्यूज़ हैं इस्लाम के मुतालिक अच्छे व्यूज़ नहीं होते हैं। When he ran to be the Republican candidate, उन्होंने ये कहा था कि Muslims are not welcome in USA. वो Muslims को बैन करेंगे पूरी दुनिया से coming to the USA. आपको मालूम है कि Americans हैं जो मुसलमान हैं, proud Americans, proud Muslims. मेरे शहर में लंदनर्स हैं जो लंदनर्स हैं और मुसलमान भी हैं, like me. तो वो ये कह रहे हैं कि Muslims are bad. और since he became president, आपको मालूम है कि we've had some differences. मैंने ये कहा है कि we as a country shouldn't be having a state visit for President Trump. We shouldn't be rolling out the red carpet. मैंने सुना है कि वो शायद आएंगे फरवरी में. Not going to be a state visit. मगर देखेंगे क्या होगा, क्योंकि लंदन में लोग President Trump के fans नहीं हैं। तो अगर वो आएंगे तो I predict there will be lots of protests.
आप उनको क्या मशवरा देते हैं? What is your advice to him? Don't come to UK?
My advice to him is change your views. Your views on Islam, your views on Muslims. Many of the views you have aren't the views that we have in London and the UK. देखें, लोग कहते हैं कि the USA and the UK have a special relationship. Special relationship की ये मतलब होता है कि we're best friends. अगर आपके पास best friend है, जब troubles होती हैं ना, आप उनके साइड होते हैं। मगर अगर वो कुछ ख़राब चीज़ करते हैं तो आप उनको बताते हैं, listen, you're wrong. In my view, you're my best.
But just a quick thought, as it's New Year, about what happened in London on New Year's Eve. There were 5 separate knife attacks that took place in the capital that night, resulting in the deaths of 4 young people. That's 80 people that died through knife crime in London in 2017 alone. It is a rise of 31% year on year from the previous figures. And it isn't just knife crime. All other forms of violent crime are rising very rapidly in London indeed. And I think that when Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, talks about these things, he tends to talk in platitudes. I would advise a bit less attacking Donald Trump and other world leaders you don't like. And we need some real tough community action. I'm not saying we can solve knife crime, but I think generally the feeling is we're not, frankly, doing quite enough.
For me, this tracks back to one person who was Home Secretary for almost record number of years, now finds herself in number 10, Theresa May. And I think she has to take a long, hard look at her decision to effectively make it akin to a crime for a police officer to use stop and search. She'll be candid with each other. As the photographs emerge of these tragic victims, I'm telling you now, there will be most of them, if not all of them, will be black lads. I'm telling you that now. Or should we say BME, mixed race lads. And this is why stop and search, and I will say these words till I'm blue in the face, properly and professionally executed, has to be brought back. When is the penny going to drop? I would sense it's dropped within Scotland Yard. But of course they can only do what they can do. They can't actually write their own cheques. They have to go to the Home Office, who has to go to the Prime Minister's office to try and get more cash. And isn't it intriguing, if you were in London on New Year's Eve, which I have to confess I wasn't, but if you were in London, and you attended the fireworks, or if you went to Winter Wonderland at Hyde Park, or if you went to any of the main orchestrated events, quite rightly, they were flooded with police. They have to be in the age in which we live. The concern over terror, the attacks that we saw in Berlin, the attacks over a year ago in Nice, places like that. I absolutely understand that. You have to flood the place with police. But all the time you're taking that away in the dark corners of North, East and South London, where these fatal attacks are, the police aren't there. So what you have to is, when you do have police, you have to make them useful. You have to deploy them correctly. You have to have them doing stop and search. And as for the community leaders who moan that it's disproportionate, well, why don't we look at the victims? Because sadly, you'll see, it is disproportionate that the victims are non-white.
Congressional investigators said they have found troubling irregularities in the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton and her email server. According to a report in The Hill, FBI agents had their investigation micromanaged by higher-level officials, in contrast to ordinary practice. You know what that means. The investigators also told The Hill they found evidence the FBI began drafting an exoneration of Hillary Clinton before it had even gathered all the relevant evidence or interviewed more than a dozen key witnesses. Chris Swecker is a former assistant director of the FBI, and he joins us tonight. Mr. Swecker, thanks for coming on.
Evening, Tucker.
So you've seen this report. I don't think anybody, any American, wants to believe the FBI is not on the level or subject to political manipulation, but that's a conclusion I'm reluctantly reaching. What's your conclusion?
Well, as an experienced investigator, it doesn't take a congressional investigation to tell me that nothing about that investigation was right. I mean, those of us that have conducted federal criminal investigations know that you use the grand jury, you use search warrants, you don't hand out immunities like candy. I mean, everything in that investigation runs contrary to the way a real, credible, thorough FBI investigation is conducted.
So give us, as you were watching this, give us the specific examples that tipped you off that this was not unfolding as it ought to have been.
Well, first and foremost, in any complicated federal investigation, the basic tool of the trade is a grand jury. Right. And use of the grand jury to obtain records. You don't go to witnesses and say, "Mother, may I have that computer hard drive? May I have those emails?" You use subpoenas and process and grand jury and search warrants and that sort of process. So that was the tip-off from the beginning. So many deals were made with people not knowing what kind of information they had, and the deals being made simply because they lawyered up and didn't want to talk to FBI agents. That's when you throw them in front of a grand jury.
Well, exactly, because of course, a lot of subjects, most subjects, I would think, lawyer up, and nobody wants to talk to the FBI, of course. But the FBI doesn't normally cave to that, does it?
No. You look at when Jim Comey was the Deputy Attorney General running the Corporate Fraud Task Force, and I was running the Criminal Division. I mean, we played hardball in those investigations. You used grand jury process. You didn't just ask for records, and you didn't give them an opportunity to hand over what they wanted to hand over. And if they did lawyer up, you went to the trouble of throwing them in front of a grand jury to put their statement on the record, or they can take the fifth, and then you can make a decision as to whether to grant them immunity at that time. But none of that was done in this case. This was like driving a car with the brakes on.
Why wasn't it done, do you think?
You know, that's what puzzles myself and all of my former colleagues, people who have retired from the FBI, from executive level positions on down to the street level. The only thing I can come up with is that Director Comey placed the investigation in the hands of his inner circle. And they had their own agenda, obviously. When we've seen that from some of the information that has since come out, the texts, etc.
So you think it was political?
I think that there were people inside that inner circle, in the Comey inner circle, that had their own predetermined opinions about about Hillary Clinton and the president, or what then was a president-elect, or someone running for president.
So let me ask you about something that I found really striking. Tell me if you had the same reaction. So we now have documents that came out in a lawsuit that show, internal documents from the FBI, that when the then Attorney General Loretta Lynch had that famous meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, his wife was being investigated at the time. The FBI's first reaction was not to figure out how did that happen. The first reaction was to find out how news of it leaked. That seemed like a very weird reaction to me.
It's not the FBI that I know. and as I said, my former colleagues that I compare notes with all the time, that's not how things were handled. And in former Director Comey's rationale, shall we say, for making this prosecutive decision that the FBI director has no business making, that she was not to be prosecuted, that was based on that tarmac meeting. Well, if that were the case, all he had to do was hand the investigation to the Attorney General's office, let her recuse herself from making that decision, knock it down to her number 2 level person, and then if that didn't happen, then maybe raise the issue publicly.
It's really distressing to watch this. Thank you for your perspective on that. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.